Let's see. Mic is still good. Okay, cool. Let's pull up the chat. How do I do that? I always forget. Okie doke. So today I want to work on Sunny, and let's first streaming. Okay. Cool. Let's open up the text. npm run dev. Cool. So today I want to work on adding collections. And I know collections isn't all that different from like inventory, but I want to be able to store collections of things like Pokemon cards or Lego. And I think those kinds of collections don't really fit in this because these are just like random things scattered around the house in specific places. Whereas like Pokemon cards, like I want to build decks or I want to do something with it, but I need to know what I've got in order to do something with it. Or I could potentially like build a wish list into this collection thing. So yeah, let's get going. So I already found a Pokemon trading card game API. And let's start by implementing what we need from this API into the app. And I'm going to do that by, oops, I didn't want to do that. I already connected the API key. So now what we need to do is, first off, let's see if I've already got Saloon installed. I don't think so, but I do want to play with Saloon for this. Okay, I don't have Saloon installed. So let's go to Saloon and install. So Composer requires Saloon. Let's not do that there. Okay. And if we also want to install this Laravel plugin, and hold on one second. Give me 1 second. Okay. Hey, Mateus. Bloop. Okay. So then, okay, we just installed Saloon. We're adding collections. And let's go back to the browser. And let's add this config. Cool. So I want to start off by adding a Saloon connector. And let's call this Pokemon TCG Connector. Let's just call it Pokemon. Thanks, Ash. We should still call this Pokemon Connector. And no, we shouldn't do auth. Or that kind of auth. So Pokemon Connector. Cool. So now we have this Pokemon Connector. And let's go take a look at their API to see what we need to do. So we have an API key. Authentication is performed via the API key header. So let's do that here. Config services.pokemon.key. Sure. Services, let's do boop boop. Key and env Pokemon key, which I've already set up. So that's that for HTTP. All requests must be made over HTTPS. Okay. Cool. So I do want to be able to search for a card and then save it. So let's create a request for this cards endpoint. And let's go back to Saloon. So PHP Artisan Saloon request. That's what we want. And the related integration is Pokemon Connector. It should be called Search Cards. It is a get. Cool. So if we go app, HTTP, integrations, Pokemon Connector, requests, Pokemon Connector. Cool. And inside here we have that it's a get method and the endpoint. So the endpoint should be /cards. And then the base URL should be this. So let's put that here into the base URL without that trailing slash. And let's go to requests. Because what I want to do is I want to search for a card and get the data. So with the search cards, queue, the search query, the page of data to access, page size, order by, and select. Comma delineated list of fields to return in the response. Example, select ID name. By default, all fields are returned if the query parameter is not used. Okay, cool. So we can search for name Charizard and get all of the Charizards. Cool. So let's play with this, I think. Let's open up Tinkerwell and see how that looks. Get rid of you. Okay. What is this? So let's add or see. How do I do this again? Constructor arguments. Let's see. Nope. Sending requests. That's what I want. Okay, so we new up the connector, and then we new up the request, and then we use the connector to send the request. Okay. Every time I look at that, I feel like it feels verbose, but it's also kind of nice. So we can do Pokemon, new Pokemon connector, and then do request, new search cards, then do response equals forge, no, Pokemon, send request. Let's see if that works. Okay, we got something. We got a 200, cool. So if I do collect, so if you run collect off of it, it should be a collection that it gives you back. Sweet. Okay, so collect, pass in data, because we want to collect the data object, unless there's a different, okay, page 1, page size, count, 250, total. Okay. Oh, there's 18,000. Page 1, page size, and there's 250 pages. Wow. Okay. Which is interesting that this is a search endpoint, but didn't actually search anything. And I didn't pass anything into the search. But, so that's an interesting thing, I guess, about this API, is that it doesn't really care if you hit that cards index. It'll just send you back anything, which is kind of nice. But I do kind of want to limit this search. So let's see how we add in query bodies. Headers, query parameters. There we go. So protected default query. And so let's double check those parameters on the API. Search cards, body parameters, non-URL parameters, non-query parameters, Q. And so Q equals name Charizard? Sure. So Q name Charizard. Let's see if that works. Okay, so we got Charizard. Another type of Charizard. Cool. So that did limit the result a lot. Let's also take out that data thing and see. Okay, there's only 100 total, so there's only one page of data. That's nice. Okay. So, what do we want to do with this? I really want to... I think it'd be cool if we have a page that you search the Pokemon and then it shows you a list of things and then you pick the one that you want to add to your collection. And then I think it would also probably be good to have like a list of collections. But maybe that's getting ahead a little bit. But, we'll see. Okie doke. So let's do... let's make a model. PA... No, I don't usually do it that way. Make model collection. I don't know if I'm going to love having a model named collection when there's collections in Laravel, but we'll see how it goes. Should I create a migration factory and resource? No, you should make a migration, a factory, but not a controller, because Livewire. Cool. So a collection should probably have a name, at least. For now. I don't know what else we're going to want in there, but let's do this for now. Table, string, name. Loop. Cool. So then we've got a collection, and then Statamic calls things that go into collections entities. And I kind of like that pattern, but also, yeah, I can't really call them things because I already have things. So I do think entity could work. Or collector item, thesaurus. Entity as in an object, substance, reality, individual thing. What's another word for thing? As in an object, item, piece. Piece might be good. In this instance, we could probably call it card, but I think I'm going to also extend this to also collect or use like Lego or other things. So I want a fairly agnostic entity thing. Matter. Matter's kind of funny. Let's just call it entity for now. Or entry. Yeah, let's call it entry. So let's do make model, entry, no, yes, yes, no. Okay. An entry should have a collection ID, factory, import the collection model, and it should also have a name. Okay. So I used Lego as the factory's collection name by default. So I think I should use a Lego set. So let's say, what's a Lego set? Of course, I'm like thinking of all of them and then none of them at the same time. So I want just a small little set. Great gift ideas. Sure. Come on. Sure. Wednesday in Eden. Okay. So now let's add those to the table. Create entry, which should be table string name table. Oh, foreign keys. I always have to look these up. .com docs foreign. That's not what I wanted. There we go. This one. collection ID name. Okay, and then I think we're probably also gonna want like a JSON column just to dump all the data from the API into table JSON data or content. Data or content? Data, because it's shorter and I'd like to type less. Okay, so now we've got our entries, we've got our collections. So now let's migrate the database and let's go to the UI and add some new pages. Web. So in this app, I've kind of done two different ways of setting up pages. I've done full page LiveWire, full class components where there's a class and then there's a view. And then I've also done some full pages with the functional API. For these, I think they're going to be a little bit more intensive. So I don't necessarily want to use a Volt route. I want to use a full LiveWire class-based just because I think it's a better separation of the template and the class, and it's not too much all in one place. But that's my personal preference. So let's add collections. Usually I have like sections of the app namespaced, and I don't really want to do like collections collection because that feels gross. So we might want to come up with a better container word, but we'll see. Let's start with a collection page. So let's do PA make LiveWire pest test, and let's say it is collections. So now we have a collections page, and then we also want an entries page. And let's call that entries. Collections.entries. And let's import that. Let's comment this out so we can make it. And did that make correctly? Yes, it did. Cool. So uncomment, import, cool. So now let's go to the app blade layout. Jeez. Velvy. My dog is barking. I don't know if y'all can hear that. So for the front end, I'm using Flux because I also wanted to play with Flux. Let's create a collection with a collection. Let's just call it all or list. We'll play with it more later. Collections, because that's, yeah. Collections.index and collections.entries. Except, why would I have a top level page for that? Because for these, I mean, I guess I could have a page of like all of the entries, but I think it would make more sense to go into the list and then click on a collection and then view all of the things in that collection. We can do this for now and see if we like it or hate it. npm run dev. Cool. So if I go to list, layouts.app does not exist. Why not? Let's go look at locations. What did I do here? I used layouts app. So let's go to collections and add in that. Import this data attribute and see if this works now. Cool. If I go to locations and then go into the blade view, what do we have? Okay, Flux main is the outside component. So let's go into collections.blade and replace this with this. Then, okay, cool. Then it looks okie-doke. So if we go back to locations, let's grab this header, paste it here, and change this to collections. And then change location form to collection form. And let's see what the page looks like now. Okay, cool. So we have a create form, which isn't going to do anything because we don't have a modal to open it. So let's copy this modal, paste it here. Let's rename this to collection form. This editing collection, edit create collection. I'll get rid of the subheading for now. We just want name. Okay, so then save, and that should all just work, I think. So let's, or not. Okay, so editing collection is not found. So let's go back to locations, see what we've got here. So let's copy both of these because I think we're going to need both of them for our form. So we're saying that name is required and must have a minimum of 3 characters, and we have an editing collection. So then this works again. If we hit create, we could say Pokemon, change the E to that one. And if we click save, it's going to complain about there not being a save method. So let's actually open up the locations off to the side because it's a pretty similar type of thing. So we have a save function. And we validate and we say if it is an editing location, so we should change that to editing collection, update name this name, otherwise collection create this name. Cool. We don't have locations, but we do have, we're gonna have collections and collect form. And while we're here, we might as well get that list. I tend to use computed properties for lists just so it's easier to add in filtering and sorting. So when sort by this, or when searched, do this and do per page. And it's probably going to complain about not having those things. So let's use these traits. This with pagination trait comes from Livewire, and it's just how you say we want Laravel's default pagination. With data table is a trait that I created, which is just kind of a wrapper. Close this one. Thank you. With data table is a wrapper. It's a trait to kind of hold some like things. So we have a sort function, so when a user or somebody or most likely me, clicks on a sort button for the column, it adds a sort for, actually just updates these variables up here, which then this computed property uses. Cool. So let's go to the collections blade page. And before we add a whole table here, let's just do for each this collections as collection, and for each, and then collection name. And let's just wrap this in a UL and wrap these in a LI wrap. Just so maybe it's slightly better formatted. So let's say Lego collection or Lego sets, save, name fillable, not, okay. Since I just created those, we got to, yeah, this is, oh, it doesn't help that I added an R. There we go. Let's make this protected, guarded, none. Okay, let's try this again. Lego set, save, cool. And then Lego set is there in a very dark font. So let's change this class text gray 900, dark text gray 200. There we go. And then we can say Pokemon cards, save, cool. So now we've created some collections. That's awesome. And we're all saved. And cool beans. Before we move on, I would like to add, well, there's a couple of things we can do. We can either add a table here so that it's a nicer view for your things or your collections. Or we could add tests for the things that we've added so far. I'm actually leaning more towards the table, just so there's also that edit functionality, which will trigger that edit modal that we've kind of already set up, but haven't added a way to trigger it yet. So let's go to the locations blade and let's copy this whole section. I know it's collapsed, but we're going to work with it in here. So we're going to expand it. So this is a flux table. We added a flux input for search. We added a per page dropdown select. And then this is the table. We're wanting to say we want to paginate collections. We have an ID column and a sortable name column. And we have, let's change this to collections. Change location to collection. And does this just all work? No. Collection property not found because it's got a $sign. Or not. Where did I mess up? Flux row, this should be collection ID. Collections. Ah, here. There we go. Now we have a table where we can search Pokemon or Lego set. Cool. Then we can also sort by name. So if I sort once, it'll be descending. If I sort again, it'll be ascending. And if I click again, it'll be just off. Then I can click this context menu to edit. Cool. So public method edit not found on component. So let's go back here and let's just do this one from scratch. So when we edit, hey Marcy, public edit, we want to take in the ID of the collection that we're editing. And of course, Aaron Francis is live now, which is great. It means nobody's going to come over here and hang out with me. But that's okay. He's also cool. So for edit, we want to set this editing collection with the one we care about editing so that we can use that to populate the form. So we'll do this collections first where ID is ID, and say this editing collection is this, and I can't spell today. Okie doke. And then we want to open the modal. So I think it's this modal. No, this open. Okay. Flux docs, modals. How do we trigger this? Livewire methods. This modal, confirm, show. So we can do this modal collection form show. I think that should work. So if we say Lego set edit, but the name didn't populate. Oh, because we didn't also set the name? Do I do that elsewhere? Yeah, I also set the name because, yeah, okay. So I set the editing location, or in this case, the editing collection, so that when we save, we know the model that we're updating or saving. So I could also just store the just the ID, but to fill in the name or fill in the form, collection name, it kind of helps to have the full model. I'm not sure if this is like the best way to do this, but this is a common pattern that I've kind of fallen into with forms, because I don't want to duplicate the form. I just want it to work if I, create some or edit something or create something. What's another thing I collect? Wow, I can't think of another thing. Oh well. So Pokemon cards, Lego sets, cool. But I don't know if y'all noticed, if we clicked edit and we say sets and we hit save, it updated in the background, but it didn't actually close this. So let's fix that. Let's make this collection form. Cool. So if we fix this again, so it goes back to just sets. There we go. Cool. Now, I guess let's add some tests. So let's pull up the location test, because it's pretty similar to what we're going to want for our collections test. So let's split this and open this. Cool. So I like to have a testing the page with an HTTP request. And then once I have that kind of like high level check done, then the rest of the tests, usually in a test class, I just test directly with Livewire or Volt. So, acting as user, get collections, assert OK, and assert you see collections. And that passes. Cool. So the next one is test that we can view the component. So this one, I usually set up a thing. So let's set up a collection with a couple of collections. Let's change this to 2. And let's say Lego and Pokemon. Oops, wrong E. Mon, and get rid of that one. So then we can say collections, assert C collections, and then assert C Lego and Pokemon. Cool. And that's done. Can sort locations. I feel like now that I've moved this to a trait, I think I added a test for the trait, so I don't really want to keep adding these tests. But I guess it doesn't hurt. But meh. Okay, so let's just copy this can create locations and make it can create collections, create set name is Lego, so, call save, assert that we've cleared out the form, and then assert that we have a collection with the name of Lego. And so that should also work. Cool. Can edit location. I guess this is not technically TDD, but sometimes when I'm working on UI, this is kind of how I work, where I get the UI right and then I add the tests. And especially for these indexy list type pages where they all tend to kind of look the same, I don't want to spend a ton of time like rebuilding all these tests over and over again because they're all pretty much the same. So let's make this Lego, assert C Lego, edit collection, change this variable name to collection, assert C, or assert set because we're editing, set name to Lego sets because we're changing the name to assert that it got edited. And then let's change this to collection, fresh name to be Lego sets. And run that test and we failed. Okay, because we don't have a collection. Cool, now it passed, so I can type apparently. And then the final test can be can delete collection. And I don't know if I actually did this one. Collection, Lego, collections, assert C Lego. God forbid I got rid of my Lego collection because that's not happening. But I guess for this test I have to. Collections and Lego. Cool. And then this should fail because public method delete was not found on component. Cool. So let's add it. Delete pub, delete ID, this, collections, oops, first where, please ignore my dogs, ID, collection, I don't need a variable, I can just run delete. Okay, it didn't So it failed because it still saw Lego. And even though we deleted it, we didn't unset the collections computed property. And so the way to refresh that data is by unsetting that, which is why we do that down here when we save. We unset the collection, so we refresh the collection so we see anything new that we added or anything we've changed. So I just copy that. And bloop. So now we should pass. Cool. So now let's commit. Let's go back to env example. Get rid of that K. Go back to merge. So we added saloon and the environment for the API that we're integrating with. So let's commit that. Install saloon and add keys for API. And let's say all of these other ones will be start on pages, models, and pages for collections and entries. Cool. So now, we also kind of want a view page because I want a page for all my viewing of all my Lego sets and a page to view all of my Pokemon cards. But then also, like, in that viewing of the collection, you could also have a wish list, which I think is nice because it's not just what you've got, it's also what you want. And what you want requires money, but that's a separate thing. So let's let's start. It'd be great if my dogs didn't keep interrupting me. But okay, so let's clear everything out. Let me close my office door. And let's come back and make a new tab and do PA make live wire pest and test, and we want to make it collections.view. Cool. So now we have a view. Cool. So I am sorry that my dogs are setting yours off, Marcy. But maybe you should wear headphones. But yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know what they're so riled up about. Collections, view. Okay. So we also want to add this to a web route. So let's say collections ID, or collection is collection/view. I should have called it show. Dang it. That's what I want to call it. It's going to complain because this isn't real. So let's comment it out. Collections.show. There we go. So let's import show. Cool. So if we go to the show class, collections.show, we need to import the layout property, which I always copy because I always forget how it works. Attribute. These are called attributes. Whoops. Ignore me. Okay, so then We want a route model binded collection. So let's do public collection model and call it collection. And that should get route model binded for us with Livewire. So we shouldn't need a mount method. But let's see if I'm not lying. I hope I'm not lying, but I could be. Oh. We also want to replace this with flux main. I think it's 2 colons. Collection name. So if I do collection /1, okay, so I was wrong. Let's go to collections, and it's flux colon main, not double colon. Dang it, I had it right the first time. And then we have Lego sets. Cool. So let's copy the header kind of component thingy-mabobber. I'm not sure if we're going to want this button, because like for this one, we want to kind of search the Pokemon cards or Lego sets to then add those sets to our collection. So, let's remove this for now because I'm not quite sure how we want to do that yet. And then let's copy this and paste it here. So then we have an what do you mean? Oh, because I got rid of that. There we go. So now we have Lego sets. If we do /2, we have Pokemon cards. Cool. So we both want a table that'll show us the cards that we have, and then we want a way to be able to add cards, entities, or entries to that table. So how do we want this kind of to look? Let's play with the search, because I actually kind of think that's going to be more fun. And it will let us use that API that we started building with Saloon. I think either next stream or whenever, it'd be fun. It's going to be fun to like make this a little agnostic. So like this page knows how to pull from this collections API so that I could have a separate API for Lego or whatever else type of collection I or you may have. But for right now, let's focus on Pokemon cards and keep it simple-ish to get something on the page and then go from there. So yeah. Bloop. Cool. So let's add a search, which will look like this. It's an input with a search, and let's say search cards. Let's also pull up Obsidian and make a new note with stream notes and say we want a way to, what is happening? Okay. Parameterize. Sure. Parameterize search placeholder. Cool. I love how now that I've closed my office door, the dogs are fine and not being menaces. But okay. So we probably want to parameterize this at some point, maybe making it a setting on the collection, but we'll deal with that later. Let's first see what this looks like on the browser. Cool, we have a search cards. And if I start typing, nothing happens. So, let's go back to our show thing and say public string search. And let's, in here, let's do a sanity check. P text gray 900, dark text gray 200, and echo out the contents of search just so we know that this is getting updated. Okay, so it is. So I think we also probably want to add debouncing on this, just because we don't want to be querying that API incessantly. So let's go to LiveWire and look at debouncing input. Wire live debounce. Perfect. And I did want it to be a live instead of a normal wire model, just so that we could have a faster, like you didn't have to press enter and have a faster response for seeing cards show up. So let's, okay. Let's go back to, so we want to search for cards, we want to show cards. So we need a method or a function that is going to do something when we type in. So I think what we should do is add an updating hook. So when search is updating, we can probably need to lock, but okay. Updating property value. Updated. So yeah, let's change it to updated. Yeah, that's fine. So yeah, after render, that's fine. Let's see. Property is search. We can grab what we had in Tinkerwell, which was this. But we're not passing in the query yet, so we should work on that in a little bit. And let's set the response to public results. This results equals that. Cool. So we're initiating our Pokemon connector, we're making a search cards request, and then we're using that connector to send the request, and then we're collecting the data property out of the response, and then setting it to the results. So then, if we go to show, we could do for else, for each, let's make this an empty array to start out with. For each results as, why can I not write a for each for, gosh darn it. Yes, okay. Yes, entry. And for each, that shouldn't be entry. Oh, let's call it result. Because it's not an entry yet, because we haven't saved it yet. Yeah. So let's do what did those data properties look like when they came back? We have an ID and name. So let's use oh, and there's an image. So let's use images large. Image result images large, and then use the result name as the alt for now. Let's also add a grid. So grid calls for gap 8. Sure. So if we go back, we see nothing. If we start typing hound, we start getting Charizards. Those are very large, high res. How big are these? They are naturally... Okay. Did you not care about my grid at all? Or did I mess it up? Tailwind. What did I do? Grid calls. Okay, grid calls 4. Did I accidentally kill NPM? Okay, I must have accidentally killed NPM, because there we go. Now we can see all these cards. Okay, but now we want to actually use this search in the result. So let's update the show and use this search as a parameter into search cards. And search cards needs to have a constructor function. I always forget how to do constructors. Requests. There we go. Constructor arguments. So protected, read only, name, search. I don't know if it necessarily has to be read only, but that's what the documentation has, so I'm going to keep it for now. And then we'll say, instead of name and hard coding it to Charizard, we will add in our this search. So now, if we go back and we start typing hound, we get nothing. If we inspect network, okay, so we did do an update. Search hound. Let's do dd this search. Okay, so we have hound. Let's do DD this. Okay, that looks correct. Maybe we need to string to lower it. Query is stir to lower this search, semicolon, query. Let's look at inspect. We have the header, we have this div, we have the input, and we have the grid with nothing. Hound. Oh, you are? Oh, it's gotta be pretty exact. Eh. Interesting. I don't know if I care. Because, like, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be taking cards that I just got and, like, searching for them and then clicking, like, an add button. So, So I want to add this one. Let's look at the documentation and see wildcard matching. Okay, so maybe we should add a star at the end. Okay. Let's add a star at the end, just because I'm lazy and probably don't want to type the whole thing. Okay, cool. So then I'm getting the hound loom and hound door, and a kind of mix of everything and anything with hound. Cool. I actually like that. And if I finish typing hound or, it updates to just give me hound or. Cool. So I like that for starters. Okay, so now let's add some fun CSS to hover over this and click an add button, because I think that should be fun. So if we go to show and let's Google Tailwind overlay. Okay, I think this makes sense. So we have a div with a relative thing because we're going to have absolute positioned things inside of it. And then we're giving it a height. This would be the image. And the overlay, and then the content. Okay, let's try it. So let's copy this, paste it in here, and make this style background URL. Result image is large, but it probably needs to be wrapped. Is that a real thing, background URL, or is it background attachment? Cool. So that's the background image. Let's make this, it can be black for now. And then let's do the result name. And then maybe a button, modal, button. Why am I not logged in? Okay. Button, let's say extra small. Didn't copy for whatever reason. Copy, paste, and let's say add. So then if we go to Sunny, and we hound, okay, it kind of worked. Oh yeah, because I still have this. Okay. So 96 is way too tall. Let's make this 48. Let's see what the deal is with the background. I'm guessing it's not the right. That's also now too short, but okay. Background attachment. Background source. Okay. Background period. Okay. No. Does it not need to be quoted? What is your problem? Background image. Oh, it needs to be wrapped in a URL. I see. Okay, so then this is URL. And then this is image. Cool. So then if we go back, hound. Cool, we start seeing them. But I think we probably also need like an overflow none or overflow hidden. Let's make that text a lot smaller. and make it only on hover. So let's make this a flux heading. Yeah, let's just make it a heading. That's kind of nice. And let's make it P2. Let's make this better without a tilde thingy. Okay, and now let's say group. So then we can say hidden group visible. I think that's how that works. Not at all. So we also want this overlay to be hidden or invisible. And then and okay, hover, nothing. Okay, group. So group hover, there we go. And then we should probably copy this to the other one. Hound. There we go. It's kind of slow, but that's fine. And then there we go. Cool. If we click add, nothing happens, but that's okay. I kind of think the background should be a little darker, just so it's easier to read the text. Okay, cool. I think that's better. Let's also use that small one, just because I don't think... Yeah, those loaded a lot faster and they don't look any different. So I think that's good. Cool. Now let's commit this so far. So let's change this. So update search request to accept param, and then add view or show collection page with search. Cool. So next up, we should probably add something. But also my throat's getting dry. So let's actually call it quits for today, or maybe for just a little bit, and take a break and then potentially come back later, but I'm not promising anything. Sound good? Cool. So have a